Hey there, and welcome back to Baldur's Gate 3. My name is Pete, and today we complete another episode of this honor mode walkthrough with our Dark Urge Halfling Bard, Sylvia Hairyfoot. Last time we left off, after thoroughly exploring the Myconid colony and the Underdark around it, we met the hobgoblin trader Blurg and, surprisingly, his mindflayer colleague Omalium. We helped out a pair of dwarven mushroom pickers, and we fought a group of hook horrors. Today we want to leave the Underdark, just for a little bit though. However, our Myconid companion will have something to say about this.
No. I feel the fair's rest fading. I cannot leave the Underdark.
You recall the fair's rest, the energy of the Underdark. The Myconid might die if isolated from it.
So obviously we will not force Glut to accompany us to the surface. Let us dismiss him and his hook horror spore servant now. Both of them can rejoin us later.
I will refresh myself near Spore's circle.
Right, and with that Glut trots off and we can open the map once more. Our next destination, the Blighted Village.
Like a brisk stroll through the forest to invigorate the spirit.
I was just thinking the same thing, but less poetically.
And without so much as a stirring from our tadpoles.
A girl could get used to this.
Right, I think it's clear why we are here. Last episode we were able to collect a piece of Sussur bark, and during our first tour of this village we came across this forge right here, as well as blueprints for crafting a masterwork weapon. Following those blueprints, we now need to place the Sussur bark into the furnace here to create a special fire that will allow us to craft that weapon.
The bark is in place. Now, for a great sword, dagger, or sickle.
That indeed is the question. We can only choose one of the three aforementioned weapons. I will explain the choice we make in just a few seconds. For now, I think it suffices to say that we're going with the dagger. Luckily, we have one in Sylvia's inventory.
The roaring furnace awaits an offering. A candy-sweet scent wafts forth. The Sussur bark infuses the weapon from within the flames. The flames sputter away. The dagger is yours for the taking.
So there we are, we've just finished a small side quest, earned 40 experience points and earned ourselves the Sussur dagger, a +1 weapon that can silence a target that it hits. Now, why the dagger and not the sickle or the greatsword? Well, first of all, the dagger is straight up superior to the sickle because both do the same damage, but the dagger is much more versatile. Now, as a +1 weapon with an on-hit effect that does not deal damage, there are certainly better options available both for the dagger and the greatsword. An example for the greatsword, for instance, would be the Everburn blade that Lae'zel is still wielding. So in terms of pure damage output, all of these Sussur weapons are surpassed by other better options. Which brings us then to the unique silencing effect, which is unfortunately more of a nice-to-have than something you can really rely on. Sadly, it only takes a DC 12 Constitution save to remain unaffected by this, and that is just not high enough to reliably silence someone. The only niche case for the Sussur dagger is as a first strike weapon with the benefit of silence sticking to the target, as opposed to the AoE from the spell, which is 100% reliable though. Overall though, I just don't think it's worth wasting an action that could also be used to deal more damage with another weapon, so that's why we went with the dagger, which can be used as a bonus action. The silence effect can still be applied that way, but overall, considering the effort one has to go through to craft one of these weapons, I personally find the Sussur weapons to be a bit lacking. Now, with that taken care of, the next part on our to-do list for today is to return to camp for a long rest. However, before we take one, let's talk Noblestalk. We acquired this mushroom last episode and importantly refused to give it back to the dwarfs. We have also learned that it has powerful healing capabilities and might even be able to restore lost memories. And famously, we've got not one but two characters who suffer from this condition. The first one is Miss Hairyfoot herself here, her memory loss a prominent part of the Dark Urge background. The other one is Shadowheart, who gave up her memories as a dedication to Shah. Now, unfortunately, we only have the one Noblestalk in our inventory here, and for the rest of the game there is unfortunately also no way to acquire a second one, at least not one with the same healing capabilities, so it looks like we have to make a choice. And, well, Sylvia here strikes me as a person who would find it much easier to persuade others to dig up old pieces of their past. So, instead of dealing with her own buried memories, we're now going to speak to Shadowheart.
So, that's what people mean when they talk about butterflies in their stomach. Did you want something?
Now, before we make our intentions fully clear here, let's address the wound on her hand. Who knows, maybe the Noblestalk mushroom can cure that too.
Pain is the gauntlet that all who love Lady Shah must endure. Only her embrace can truly heal me. To try and salve myself would do nothing but shame me in the Night Singer's eyes.
Right, so understandably I think Shadowheart's convictions make her hesitant, but the persuasion option here brings up a good point. What if that dedication ends up costing us dearly at the wrong moment?
Perhaps you're right. But there's little we can do about it just now. Maybe a way will present itself in time if Lady Shah wills it.
Right, and with that I think we've planted a seed at least, and maybe this now also makes her a bit more receptive to our proposal regarding the Noblestalk.
I can't. My memories are being withheld for a reason. Lady Shah will return them to me when the time is right, no sooner. Besides, mushrooms aren't my favorite. I think it's because of the gills.
Right, and once more, Shadowheart's beliefs make her reluctant. However, we're not just going to leave things be, even if these are big words for someone who could practice what they preach, but at least Sylvia is not having her memories repressed willingly. The persuasion DC of 12 here should then once again be no trouble. We can sadly not get Shadowheart to guide us on this roll, but as you can see, we also don't need to.
All right, give it here.
Now, even though the game does not directly show it to us, Shadowheart is consuming the mushroom here. However, whether or not it actually has any effect, well, it looks like we need to prod that out of her.
I remembered something. Not everything. It's new and not new at the same time. All jumbled up. I was younger. Much younger. An initiate at the cloister. I was upset about something. The others were teasing me, mocking my name, like I wasn't worthy of it. There was another. A tiefling boy with short horns and purple hair. I think he was my friend. He tried to make me feel better. Renald. That's the last part of it I remember. That must be his name. Perhaps he's still there in Baldur's Gate.
And there we are. We have just at least partially restored one of Shadowheart's memories, although in doing so we have of course also missed out on the chance to do the same with Sylvia. From a completionist perspective, and that is what this playthrough is all about, that is of course not ideal. However, and this might be slightly spoilery, in my opinion what you can restore from Shadowheart's past is a bit more interesting than what you can restore with a Dark Urge. Not to mention that in Shadowheart's case, this actually adds a small sub-quest to her origin quest, whereas Dark Urge characters only get a brief glimpse into their past, and that's about it. So that is why we made this decision and can now finally take a long rest. However, as you can see, the evening has one more conversation for us in store, as Astarion wishes to speak to us.
A line with a fork and 1, 2, 3 dots. Bloody infernal. How was anyone meant to read this garbage?
So, following up on our comments made after a private night spent with Astarion earlier, it seems like the scars on his back have him curious after all, even though he previously stated they didn't matter much to him.
There you are. I admit I got curious. I've been tracing the scars on my back with my fingers, trying to read them by touch. But I can't. They may as well be written in Rashimi.
Now, Astarion is always good for a bit of teasing, and I think it lightens the mood, so let's offer to get a mirror for our vampire friend.
That had better be a joke. I can't read it with a mirror, and it seems I can't read it with my hands either.
Now, obviously, it's very clear what all of this will boil down to, but why offer our help if it can also be asked for? So let's remain quiet and wait for Astarion to do exactly that.
So, I was wondering if maybe, perhaps, you might be able to, Can you read what's on my damn back? Please.
And of course we will. I think we're eager to know, just the way he is.
Thank you.
The jagged script is definitely infernal, the language of the hells, but you can't make out its meaning.
And? What can you see?
Now, at this point, taking the light-hearted approach would actually result in an approval loss, so let's get straight to business and draw what's on Astarion's back onto the ground.
What in the hells? What did he do to me?
Now, his reaction here kind of implies that he at least somewhat understands what he sees, so maybe he'd care to enlighten us.
I have absolutely no idea. But it's no poem. 2 centuries carrying this. And I can finally see it.
Now, I don't think we need confirmation here that he doesn't understand, but maybe we can shed a bit more light on the entire issue, for example, by finding out whether writing an infernal is something that Cazador regularly does.
No. I could have missed it, of course, but I doubt it. Cazador was only figuratively hellish. There were never any devils hanging about the crypt. Whatever he's left carved in my flesh, it's a mystery to me. Thank you, by the way. This is, well, it's something.
Indeed, let's focus on the positive, I guess. Let's promise to figure it out. Who knows who else we're going to meet and who might be able to help.
Will we? How sweet.
Alright, and with that, let's go to bed and spend a full night sleeping. The fight against the Hook Horrors last episode did not consume too many of our resources, but there are still plenty of long rest events that we want to experience, such as this one right here.
Food, hungry.
Alright, it seems like the Owlbear Cub that we freed in the Goblin camp has finally made its way over to our campsite, and of course we're going to offer it some food for a big round of approval from plenty of our companions.
Want bite?
At this point, we will of course confirm our decision. Let's make sure the little one has a better place to call home in the future.
Food. Eat more! Oh my gods! Look at its little beak! Oh, come here, you doll. No, run! Damn it! We scared it off. Poor little beaky fella. Hope he finds his way back.
So, there we are on the next morning, well rested. Unfortunately, the Owlbear Cub is nowhere to be seen at the moment, but don't worry, in regards to its future, we are on the right path. At this point then, we also want to prepare and return to the Underdark. We still have plenty of unfinished business down there.
Been so long poking about down here? I'd much rather be outside, with the sun on my skin.
You've only just come to tolerate sun and you're already nostalgic. If you're going to complain the whole way, by all means, return topside. You could use the color.
Alright, so very clearly it seems we have made some changes to our party. Astarion and Lae'zel have replaced Will and Gale, as we're now making our way out of the Myconid colony to collect a few goodies along the path running southwest of it.
Corpses. These creatures did battle with Duergar.
Sylvia then remarks on a fact that we already know at this point, but had we not gone into the Myconid colony first, all of this would be news to us. Now, to harvest the nightlights along the path then, we switch to Astarion. He has the highest nature skill of anyone currently in the party, even though that only delivers mixed success.
Beautiful. Lethal. The Underdark is everything I thought it'd be.
And this environ seems worthy of a Githyanki warrior's estimation.
Ah, to be deemed worthy by the great Lae'zel of Kresh Kalir.
Continue as you have, Karlach, and you will achieve the same.
While our two warriors are chatting it up, we keep going. As you may have noticed by this point, the Underdark is an absolute treasure trove of alchemy ingredients, and I promise we will start making our own brews and potions eventually. Admittedly though, for the time being, we are doing just fine without it. Now, quick note about the environment here, you can jump these 2 mushrooms to get to the point where we fought the Boulette recently. For the moment, we have no intentions of going back there though, so instead we'll head closer towards that abandoned village that we already spotted at the end of the last episode. A small outcropping to the south here holds some more valuable treasure. In addition, there is yet another gap that can theoretically be jumped here. A chest and a path onwards sit on the other side. For the time being, though, we'll stick to what's right in front of us.
A camp. Looks abandoned.
As Sylvia then remarks upon the abandoned campsite to the west, we pick up the short sword of First Blood, a weapon dealing an extra D8 piercing damage to targets that still have their full hit points. Needless to say, this one goes to Astarion, as he is regularly one of the party's first strikers, and from stealth can often attack with advantage. Up next then, we climb down a ladder to take the southernmost of 2 paths leading west. 3 charred corpses can be found here, the cause of death quickly identifiable, a crooked wand of fireballs that is actually capable of casting the spell, however only within a rather unfortunate 5 feet range of the caster. This then likely led to the untimely demise of the gnome and the 2 Duergar that we will shortly see even more of as we get closer to the decrepit village. Now, despite the entire party failing their perception checks, we still reveal a formerly invisible Duergar here. The reason is simple. It is that magical eye that we received from Volo.
What? Gek! Got someone sneaking up on us!
Now, despite only spotting the one here, it sounds like there are more of them, and as long as they're willing to talk, I see no reason to attack.
Too loud, sun scum. Heard you stumbling. Can hear you blinking. Noise gets you eaten down here. Reckon I'll hush you before something hungry comes along.
His fist grips an axe. On his gnarled grey skin, you see the Absolute's brand.
Alright, the Absolute's influence stretching even down into the Underdark it seems. Perfect chance for us to make use of our own illicit powers once more.
That's right. You are a true soul.
Your mind is full, bursting with ecstasy and terror. Finally, it is coming. You are becoming.
Not like me to overlook one of the Absolute's chosen. Let myself get distracted. Won't happen again. Anyway, the hunt's not over yet.
So he speaks of a hunt, and well, that strikes me as something we want to gather a bit more information about.
Tracking a runaway slave, deep gnome. Stole boots from my sergeant. I'm to kill the runaway, but she's holed up with Myconids. Can't get past those rot flowers. They get in your head, make you see things. Half my squad jumped off a cliff, laughing.
Now, before we ask about this runaway slave, let's inquire about what they're doing with slaves in the first place. Sounds like there's some work to be done.
Got 'em clearing rubble. We've got orders from Moonrise to reach some old ruins. There's something the Absolute wants tucked away in there. Not that you need me to tell you that.
Now, regarding the fugitive slave, let's confirm that it is indeed the one we met back at the Myconid colony.
A deep gnome with boots too good for a slave. That's all I know.
Now, at this point, we actually want to agree to help here. However, we want to do so using the Dark Urge specific answer. The other one would cost us approval with our companions.
Ah, you're a right miserable piece of work. Let's show that whelp what the Absolute's warriors can do. Bet a true soul can make those mushrooms choke on their spores. I'll keep watch here. Gnome might make a run for it.
Now, I don't think she will, especially considering that the boots of speed that all of this is about are already in our possession. So let's climb down and initiate another conversation here, in which we can then already present them.
How goes the hunt?
And despite only a few seconds passing, nobody will be surprised that we already have the boots in our possession.
Well, look at that. Swift work. You could teach our slaves a thing or two. You'll want to take those to Sergeant Thrin in the camp.
So, at least for now, it seems like we get to hold on to the boots, and that camp is then presumably on the other side of the lake.
More like us, and a bunch of gnome slaves.
Finally then, let's inquire how we're going to find our target. Whether or not we end up handing the boots over is an entirely different matter.
Look for a Duergar with bare feet and a face like thunder. You can't miss her.
Alright, and that's all for now. Let's get going.
I'll stay back here. See if I can find some more gnomes. A few more and I reckon I could become a true soul.
Well, I suppose good luck with that. At this point then, we are free to rummage around the area. There are plenty of dead bodies to be looted, and you may have just seen it, we have also discovered a waypoint, and this part of the Underdark is also a great source of lasolite.
What creatures live in waters this dark?
Indeed, next to a giant skeleton, we can see a chasm filled with water, as this here are in fact the shores of that underground lake we already spotted last episode. A water-damaged note then also warns us of the Duergar camp on the other side of that lake, while we rummage through the remains of what looks to be a violent fight between Duergar and gnomes, a potential hint at some sort of unrest between the slaves and their captors. The discarded journal here then sheds a bit more light onto this formerly being a gnomish village in the Underdark, a village that is very clearly no more, likely as a result of a Duergar attack. The dock over here still seems to be functioning though. The Duergar boat tied to it also reveals how the attackers made it to this side of the lake. We are in fact now free to use that boat ourselves to get back to their camp, and just like that, our ability to see invisible creatures has also spotted another Duergar. Let's have a quick chat with this one, although he doesn't really have much to say.
Gek does the talking around here. Bother him.
At this point, we can then also casually bring up the boots.
Could have told me that before. Go ahead.
And with that, he gives us permission to use the boat. However, we are not going to do so, at least not yet. There is, after all, more loot to be gathered, and then the matter of the Duergar in this area needs to be addressed too. After all, from all we've gathered, they are certainly not nice people. We have also just spotted a fourth one in the ruined building over here. Let's have a quick chat with that one as well.
Wasn't expecting company like yours, madam.
Now, he's very polite. Unfortunately, that won't really help him. Before we engage in any sort of violence, however, let's loot this place too. A faded logbook then also confirms that this was once a gnomish village. Sadly, that is no longer the case. Now, the least we can do, I think, is to avenge the gnomes. These four here might not be the entire raiding party, but they are a good start, and the one we just spoke to last is actually a perfect first target. So, hiding the rest of our party on the village outskirts, we move back in with Karlach only. His field of view actually allows her to crouch into hiding right next to him, and at this point it's all about positioning, because we simply want to shove this guy down into the chasm. He doesn't have any good loot on him, and the kill is virtually guaranteed this way, and the other three Duergar will be too far away to notice anything. So there we are, one enemy down and we're 75 XP richer. Before we take on the others, however, let's quickly head back towards the Myconid village. You may have noticed that we did not recruit Glut back into our party for any of this. In fact, with him at our side, the Duergar would have gone hostile immediately. However, since our quest for their sovereign can only be solved by killing them anyway, at this point we might as well get Glut back into the fold.
It is time. We take death to the Duergar.
And indeed, that assessment is absolutely correct. So let's invite Glut back into the party and then head out once more. However, we are in fact not going straight back to the site of the battle. Well, at least not to the site of this one. Where we are going back to now is the site of our battle against the Bullet. Using Glut's animating spores, we are now replacing the Hook Horror with that Bullet, which even at reduced health now clocks in at 106 hit points, not to mention several extremely powerful attacks, a bite that can deal up to 52 points of damage, a ranged area of attack acid spit, and the deadly leap, which can deal massive damage too and doesn't even require an action or bonus action and can be used once every turn. Now, as you can imagine, if we now approach the remaining Duergar with this party, they will likely be a little confused. So in order to avoid combat starting too early, we are now going to stop just shy of any Duergar's field of view, as neither the Bullet nor Glut can sneak, unfortunately. A short while later then, we have everything set up for the ambush. Lae'zel and Astarion are crouched behind the leader Gek. Karlach, Sylvia and her army of summons meanwhile stay back a bit. They will join the fight as soon as it's time. Now, what's crucial to our plan here is revealing all invisible Duergar before attacking. A quick look at all of their stats here also shows us that if we can manage to strike first, they shouldn't be too difficult to deal with. Gek may have 80 hit points, but arguably more troublesome is Lurgan here with an AC of 18. Meanwhile, Garmor over by the boats is clearly some form of barbarian, and one that uses exclusively melee weapons it seems, so our priority target is leader Gek Cole. Let's open things up with a sneak attack from Astarion.
You sought a fight, and now you have one.
Right, so I think this may have been one of the luckiest combat openers we've done in a long time. Not only did Astarion land a critical to start things off, thus doubling not only the sneak attack damage, but also the extra d8 he gets for targeting an uninjured opponent, but he was also able to strike a second time afterwards with an opportunity attack, and that one ended up being a critical as well. At this point, he can now still strike 2 more times, first using his free Dread Ambusher attack, and then with his offhand bonus action. Now that last attack misses, but he still just dealt a casual 52 points of damage, and now I think it's time that we get the Bullet into the fight. That wooden platform that Lurgan is standing on here is just large enough for the Bullet to land on, so let's launch a powerful leap to hopefully deal some good damage and knock the enemy prone. Now unfortunately Lurgan makes the save, but still takes 15 points of damage, and perhaps even better than that, the Bullet now goes before him in the initiative, although it remains to be seen whether or not we actually need to make use of that. For now at least, we jump over to Lae'zel, who has not entered combat at all yet, but who will in just a second with a trip attack on Gek. And that is another critical hit on the Duergar leader, and just like that, he is dead already, and our quest for the Myconids technically already completed, as it only required us to take him down. From his corpse we can then loot the Exterminator's Axe, a great axe dealing an extra d6 fire damage, but only against plants, insects or small creatures, so overall the Everburn Blade is still a bit better. Now, somewhat unexpectedly I have to say, this still leaves us with Lae'zel's second attack, and thanks to the long range of her jump, we can actually use that against the Duergar Barbarian here, and we are of course once again going for the trip attack. That also succeeds after dealing 18 points of damage, and with the enemy knocked prone, the next steps are now clear. We are going to action surge and continue to batter him. Now, sadly, our adversary still has 7 hit points left. Maybe that is something an invisible shovel can change, although for 7 points she would need to deal max damage. Sadly, that's only 5, but we have someone in our party who works especially well against prone creatures. Let's move in with Sovereign Glut himself, since we've defeated Gek already and are keeping enough distance to Lurgan. Despite Glut's inability to sneak, we remain undetected.
The fanfare is sung. The rot is cleansed. Come, we must speak.
So Glut also comments on the death of Gek as if the quest was already completed. True completion does look a little different in my opinion though, and we get a little closer to it as Glut now deals a combined 21 points of damage and thus leaves only one single Duergar standing. In order to get to the Bulette's turn, we now need to end the ones for Astarion, Lae'zel and Shovel. Unfortunately, the Duergar still gets to act first. Now, even though the game cut Lurgan some slack, he only used his action to go invisible, and since the camera did not move afterwards, he has most likely remained exactly where he was, so let's have our Bulette spit some acid to test that theory. And there we go, that's 18 further points of damage, and our last enemy looks really hurt at this point. A pike throw from Karlach should therefore finish this. That's the Duergar defeated, nice and easy, and we still haven't taken a single point of damage in combat yet. After waiting for the acid to vanish, we can then also loot Lurgan's corpse, and with all Duergar now defeated, let us speak to Sovereign Glut.
The tumor is excised. The Duergar are dead. Here I break ground. From the dark will a mighty circle rise. My song will fill the grotto. Death Doer. The grotto may sustain but one sovereign. In the age of Glut, there may be no spore. Eliminate the other sovereign.
Well, a little surprise here. Seems like Glut wants to spill a bit more blood still, even though, for all we know, Spaw willingly gave him shelter.
A fate it has earned. My circle long suffered while the Duergar flourished. I sang to Spaw for help, yet it cowered in the grotto and let my people be slaughtered. Choose, smooth mind. Help me grow a mighty circle and reap the reward, or protect the precious poltroon as it waits for the circle of Glut to devour it whole.
Now at this point we could already make a decision. However, Glut just mentioned something about a reward. Perhaps that's worth asking about before we pick a side.
A tune of division, yours forever to sing. Keep your allies steady, and your foes fearful. Melodies of peace, even in war. A gift of Circle Glut.
Now, somewhat surprisingly perhaps, at this point we are actually going to agree to help Glut out. Whether or not we actually end up doing so still remains to be seen, but this ensures that the Sovereign remains at our side for now, and we might still have a use for him.
Come then. Bring me to Spaw and I will sing its doom. The age of Glut begins.
So here we are then, with the fate of the Myconid colony seemingly in our hands, but also with plenty of the Underdark still left to explore. And I think it would be smart to continue that exploration for a little while longer, with Glut and, crucially, the powerful Bulette still in our party. So join me next time to uncover more of the Underdark's secrets, For today, I think we've reached a good point to make the cut. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up, and if you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or become a channel member or Patreon supporter. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.